Welcome to the David Goad Show. It's the show all about communication and connection in business presenting. So why am I talking to a professional actor today? Hi, Jackie. How are you doing?
I'm doing really great, David. Thank you.
So I hired you years ago to star in a video I produced for a company I was working for, and you got on to do amazing things. Stranger Things, one of my favorite shows, Criminal Minds, soap operas, and as I understand, you're actually a real doctor? Is that true?
I am. Yeah, that's my past life.
Wow. Okay. Well, I knew you were smart, but wow. Okay. So today we're going to talk about emoting on camera. There's something in the coaching that I do. A lot of people have a really tough time with connecting with the lens and being able to prepare to talk to their camera as if there's a human being on the other side. And what ends up happening, because they're uncomfortable with that, is they're too stoic and stiff and not showing any emotion in a business presentation. So I want to talk to you about that. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds
all right.
great.
Well, let's get into it. So you are not only a great actor, but you coach and consult with other actors on the business side, right? So tell me a little bit more about what you do with one of your typical coaching clients.
Sure. So like you said, I focus on the business side of things, not so much the method or the technique. Whatever works for you is what works best, right? So I like to focus on how to develop a brand and how to develop a presence and making sure that your materials and everything that you have to present yourself is as polished and professional as possible.
Great. Well, let's talk about getting into how you emote on camera when you're preparing. You do like audition self-taping, right?
Yeah, so before every single booking, we need to audition for a role. And especially now with COVID-19, what's happened is all of our auditions, which used to be in person at the casting office, has turned into self-tapes. So the way that your business has changed in our business, it's actually very similar now. So we now have to learn how to emote to whoever's watching on the other side of the camera instead of being able to rely on that in-person chemistry. It's challenging. It's definitely something, it's a new skill. If it's something you haven't done before, it takes practice and it takes a minute to kind of get over the weirdness of it, right? It's so strange just talking to people that you don't know if they're there and paying attention or not. So emoting is very important because you want to make sure that you connect with your audience and you engage them. That way you know that they're listening to you, they're following along, and they're actually interested in what you have to say. That applies for acting, that applies for business. Know what company that you're representing, what information that you are giving, know the tone and the demeanor, whatever is appropriate, whether it's a demonstration or an instructional video or even a pitch to executives or potential investors. It's so important to make sure that you give off good energy and a good first impression.
Well, I totally agree, but I want to talk about the weirdness because that's what people are having trouble with. It's that maybe it's the lack of information coming back, right? In a room with someone, you can make eye contact, you can see if they're kind of loving you or hating you.
Right.
So how do you do that? How do you picture and create a relationship with a little black hole lens that's not a human being? Tell me what you do in your head.
It's part of getting into character. You know, you really have to kind of dig down inside and think about what is the type of personality that you would be interested in listening to, and really try and connect with that and offer that to the people who are watching you. You know, like I said, if you are a CEO or a boss versus if you are maybe a software engineer and you're just trying to explain how you got from point A to point B, or translate something from a technical person to a layman. Really kind of figure out how to best express things from the other side's perspective. And I think that alone will really help keep your audience engaged. Like you mentioned, I'm a former doctor, so I have a lot of experience talking about very technical and dry topics to a stoic audience. So you really have to kind of keep them engaged by seeming excited and enthusiastic about what it is that you have to talk about so that they can join in that energy.
And part of showing enthusiasm is actually getting your face into the app, right? And having your face, your eye contact. It's okay to smile. I heard that good actors use their eyebrows. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, when you're on camera, literally all they have to work on and base their impression off is your face, right? Because this is the screen that we see. Your face is, gosh, we're so trained as humans to understand the nuances of expression. So you really have to figure out, train yourself to learn to emote that, right? Like if you're concerned, learn how to have a concerned face. If you're delivering bad news, have a sympathetic face. If you're pitching something, you're super excited, make sure that you look excited. You have the body language and the energy and the eye connection. All of that really translates, and it does come across on camera, whether you think of it or not.
Yeah, and I see you using your hands and you're nodding your head and just there's some movement. You could probably go too far with that too. If you're too, out of the frame and crazy, a little frenetic and like, oh, that person's not under control. And I think that's mentally what I hear from a lot of clients is, I don't want people to think I'm out of control.
Right,
I'm
right.
not in charge. And that's, in other words, they just withdraw all of their emotions.
Sure.
But if you're trying to pitch an idea or get some funding for a project, you have to show that you're passionate about it, or they won't give the money to the person that they don't think is going to execute and follow through.
Right, right. I think there's a fine line between being too stiff and uncomfortable, which comes across as not comfortable, not confident, versus being fidgety, which can also translate the same way because you're not accustomed to being on camera. Making sure that every action is deliberate and it fits. Even if you're moving your hands off camera, it still comes across in your shoulders. So you can sense that the person is comfortable on camera.
Oh, fast. I love that. Yeah. If they're uncomfortable, that translates as nervousness. Maybe they don't know what they're talking about. Maybe they're making stuff up. I don't know.
Right.
So real quick, I want to talk about the eye contact too, because you and I were talking about sight lines. And tell me about that a little bit. When you're trying to maintain eye contact with a camera, you're not going to stare at it the whole time, right? You have to look at notes or look away.
Of course, of course.
How do you manage that?
Yeah, just the more you do it, the more natural and the more comfortable you'll get with it. It's just like when you're talking to a person, you don't stare in their eyes the entire time that you're speaking to them, because that just gets a little uncomfortable and awkward and invasive. So if you think about how you talk to a person, there's going to be moments where you look around or you have an idea, or you might even glance at like whatever it is that you might be looking at. Kind of developing these natural motions and habits, I think, is really healthy. It's going to come across just much better on the video. Another thing I notice is eye line. Because we're used to making eye contact, I've noticed a lot of people end up, their eye line is down here because they're looking at the screen.
Right.
And while that might help you in terms of gauging your audience and, adapting, it's hard to connect to that. So you really do want to bring your eye line to the camera and try and talk into the camera as much as possible.
Especially on the most important parts, right? Your core message, your action step, the punctuating line at the end of the story. Make sure you're connecting right in there. Oh, this is so much good. I could talk to you all afternoon. I don't have all afternoon, and nobody wants to watch that much in one sitting anyway. So I'd love to have you back on the show sometime. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, I'd love that.
All right. Well, I've learned a lot today, the importance of emoting. Tell your face if you're excited, passionate, having fun doing your job, and your audience will respond to that. And Jackie, thank you so much for sharing some of the secrets from Hollywood with our business presenting audience. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you, David.